everybody, it's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty. It's April the 17th, 2026, and we're in the afternoon of the eve of the Retreat Icebreaker Cocktail Party. Yes, and tomorrow, April 18th, is the Retreat. Hopefully you are signed up. If you're not signed up, you suck. You should be signed up because you're going to miss out. You are.
Can they sign up still?
No, they can't. Signing up is closed. So, yeah, sorry. But we'll talk more about this in a minute. But first, let's take a look at what we've been working on. I will start because this is going to become the... No, I'll let Walter start because then it'll mix it up a bit because we have other things to show of Walter. So, what do you got?
Okay, I'm still working. I started this last week.
And remember the camera's up there.
Hang on. This is a shirt for you.
I know it is.
And I hope to get it done before we leave.
So you have to have it done before we leave.
And it's getting well on its way.
Could you hold it up so people could see this rag? I mean the shirt.
This rag. Actually, it's better if I look at the back because you can see the pattern better. This is material I'm using.
It's steampunk. Steampunk airships and hot air balloons and stuff. So, I don't have anything quite like that. Now, you know, it would make, if they could only make a fabric that has steampunk airships with kitties hanging out over the sides of them, that would be two of my favorite worlds.
Yeah, well,
steampunk and kitties.
I've got part of it together. I've got the pocket on, and I just have to do the sleeves, sew up the sides,
collar,
hem the shirt,
buttons.
Hem the sleeves, do the buttons.
That's all you have.
Well, actually, once I get past the sleeves, it gets a little better.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not wearing that as sleeveless. I don't look good in sleeveless. No. Okay, so that's what Walter's been working on. This is what I've been working on. Yes, you have seen these things before, but I tell you, I have a little different bend on them on each one of my shows. This goes out to one individual who was concerned there might be repetition. You know who you are. Okay. And I don't care. So, I put these two together because the one on the left-hand side is the Accuquilt block set number 5, and the one on the right is block set 6. There's a difference between the two of them. You know, I have been pointing out to you, I've been having trouble with my points. I'm afraid I'm going to end up cutting some of them off when I start putting into the quilt because there isn't enough fabric to leave a 1/4 inch seam allowance on them. And you can see that in this one on the left. If you look, a couple of these are okay, but you get the one down here, it's a little close. And that's why it looks a little jaggy here too, because I didn't want to trim off too much. So I will have to do some finagling to get it in the quilt. But if you look at the one on the right, this one, look at those points. There is lots of room to get that attached. Now, both of these come out to the same measurement. They're both 9.5 inch blocks. They may not look exactly the same, but that's because that one over on this side is a little bit more skewed, but it is. They're measured. They both measure 9.5 inches square, which is what they're supposed to be. Why then did this one, which has quite a few points in it, why did this turn out better? Because I changed my thread. Someone did suggest this, and I have heard this before. If you use a lighter or a thinner thread, so
it's a higher weight, but
higher weight number. Yeah. So I usually use Aurifil 50 weight for all my piecing. I decided, well, Walter had a spool of Superior polyester 100 weight thread. So I decided to give that a try. And yes, that makes the difference. That, and someone sent me a link to a video that they had found on YouTube where they weren't doing an Alaskan quilt, but they were doing one of that designer Sitar's patterns for a table runner, and it had very similar, well, actually it was the same thing, except it's just put in a different order. And they were showing how they put these side pieces on with the diamond, because this is actually a diamond, this piece in here. And it was what I was doing, but I like their method, the way that they illustrated how to do it to get it to match up better. So I tried that. So it was a combination of that and the thread. And so now I have points, um, which means I have 5 sets of blocks that, well, some of them are okay. Some of them are a little off. So the question is, I'll have to, after I've finished all of the blocks in this, I'm going to see how much fabric I have left, because I went and did a search to see if I could find the fabric that's in this, and of course you know what happens. No, you can't. I mean, this pattern came out apparently in 2021, and so did the line of fabric, and yeah, I can't find any of it. So I have a couple of thoughts. One, don't worry about it. And that may be the route I'm going to go with.
Actually, I think that's probably the route you should go.
Yeah, because I don't think it's going to make a whole hell of a lot of difference. This isn't going into a quilt show or anything like that, so where the points count. And I mean, I used to be happy with cutoff points because I didn't know any better when I first started quilting. Well, I know better now, and sometimes a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. But my thought was, what I could do is I go back, go through all of the blocks I did before this one, and any that it looks really glaring, like it's really going to show up, I might either take the block apart, and if I have fabric left over enough, I'll make a new piece and put the new piece in, which is a pain in the ass to do. Or well, I'm not going to redo. Like, that would be 20 blocks. And there's no way I'm redoing 20 blocks. But I thought, if I can't get fabric, maybe go and take some swatches of the leftover fabric and see if I can find something that's comparable to it. And then looking at the design, I think that's not going to happen. I think what's going to happen is nothing. I'll just live with it, because I have a feeling I'm already getting sick of this quilt. I can tell you that. And I don't think I'll ever do another one of her designs. They're just too complex. And if you like that, if you're somebody who loves complex patterns and you love the challenge and everything like that, then you go for it. But I don't. Not when I start to become frustrated with it. It's going to be a beautiful quilt, whatever way. But I'm being very, very, very picky, because I am about that. But anyway, so I thought that's what I was talking about here. So I've got all the blocks done for 6 block sets. So I'm moving into number 7, which will be down the road next. And then all of these little pieces that are right here, these are all for the next chapter in the Art East Quilt Company's second star to the right. This is Wendy. This is what Wendy looks like before she gets herself together in the morning. I have already made one little tiny error. Her hair, you notice these pieces here, this color is called Shabby Butterscotch. And it's what Peter's hair in the first chapter. They're all designated by chapters, to keep the book theme going. And that was what his hair was. Well, when I was cutting up the pieces, I thought there was a mistake, because it called for her hair, Wendy's hair, Shabby Cinnamon. And in the picture, doesn't look like a great deal of difference in the color tone. I forgot all about the fact that the fabrics I pulled up out of the kit were just the ones for Peter. There are still a ton of other fabrics in the box, but out of sight, out of mind, kind of a thing. So, yeah, I'm not going to recut all these pieces, all the hair pieces for Wendy. It's not that big a deal. So Wendy's going to have sort of the same color hair as Peter. That's okay. And I'll use that Shabby Cinnamon. There's other ones.
How could you forget there were other fabrics?
I did. I forget a lot of things these days. It's the Alzheimer's kicking right in on that. How could you forget where the hell you put your phone the other night and had to wake me up when you pushed on your computer, find my phone? Yeah. How could you have done that? At least I have an excuse. The fabric all looks alike. There's lots of it. Anyways, yeah, so I've got all the pieces ready to go for Wendy. I'll get on with her something at some point. I hate to say it, I'm already tired of this. It's wearing me out. Well, it's a combination of this and trying to keep up with the Alaska quilt. Um, it's not that I don't enjoy doing this. I don't enjoy cutting. That is, I have not met too many people who have done an Art East quilt kit who say the best part is doing the cutting. Even John himself admits it, that there's a lot of it. But yeah, it'll be nice when it's done. Mine will look a little different than maybe it's supposed to look, but then again, I didn't want to do exactly what everybody else is doing. I made it my own. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Okay. And this is another side project in the hoop. It is Australian Animal Table Runner that I'm doing with Australian fabrics that I have a fairly nice collection of as well. So I think there is one more, maybe two more animals to do. We've got this little guy is called a Bilby, a Bilbo, Billy Bob. I don't know, something like that.
There's a Bilby, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. He's the Bilby. Did we ever see any Bilbies when we
Yeah,
were
we did.
Did we?
Yeah.
I don't remember them.
Yeah.
And
they're little guys.
An emu as well. They're not an ostrich. They are an emu. There is a difference. And this little guy is my favorite Australian animal next to a kangaroo. And he's a quokka. And quokkas only live in one little spot of Australia on an island. You have to go to Perth.
Yeah, it's called Rottnest Island.
Rottnest, yeah, which actually stands for rat nest, because when first people who came to this island saw these little creatures, they thought they reminded them of rats, and then they called the island sort of rat nest Island. But anyways, these quokkas are the most personable creatures in the world. Look for quokka, Quokka, I think is how you spell it, on YouTube. And there's hundreds of videos where people, they're the most photogenic animal there is, because they will sit there, and they're only tiny. And people get right down on all fours and get right up next to them and hold out the camera, and the quokkas smile. I kid you not. We saw it, we did it, we took pictures with it. They are the cutest little creatures you've ever seen, but they are well protected. You cannot feed them any food.
Yeah, well, actually, there's only very few areas where they live. They have this special island, Rottnest Island, where most of them are, and I think there's a couple of isolated areas on the mainland that they live as well.
But they are just the cutest little creatures. So, yeah. If you ever go to Australia, you've got to go up to Perth.
It was funny because when we went to Australia, I saw that they had these tours to Rottnest Island, and I thought it was just an island that
with trails and things.
With trails and that you could bike on and that. And I thought, well, I'm not going to take a ride all the way out to this island where all we're going to do is bike ride or whatever. And because we're not that kind of people. And
I'm not getting on a bike.
And but then we met other people there, and they said, you have to go to Rottnest Island for a day to see the quokkas. And so we did, and that was the best thing.
Yeah, they are just so stinking cute, and they smile. And so do it. Go on YouTube, look for quokkas, Quokka, and you will not be disappointed. You'll sit there and watch them for hours going, oh, that's so sweet. In fact, I love cats, but I think quokkas are even cuter than a cat. So speaking of cute, Walter's been busy on his, on Lucy, but before I get to that part, let's take a look at Walter's progress to date, shall we? So here's his little boxes with everything, and you start up here at this top. Oops, go back. Start up here at this corner. And what the hell were you doing there?
I don't know. I tried a couple of different things. Actually, I did that later. Oh. And
your circles are getting more circly.
Yeah.
A little hash. Well, some of this is ruler, isn't it?
Yeah, some of it I tried with ruler, and then I got frustrated with it.
But as we move across here, move down, some of these are getting really quite interesting. And then just go over a little further to the other end. Yeah. I think, look at this one. That one's good.
Yeah, and the
I
one
like
above it's good too.
What, the grid? No, you mean?
There's this one I
Oh,
started
that
doing.
one
That was
too.
okay,
Yeah.
and then there's that one.
Oh yeah. No stopping them now. Um, Actually, I think this one might be a little better than this one, but I don't. You're not supposed to cross
No, I know
lines.
that. I
They
know that.
say you're not, but you can do whatever you want to do.
Well, I was sort of like, and then I did some hearts here. They're kind of funny looking hearts, but
Oh, you got wonky hearts, but I mean, you can definitely see your growth and the potential here. But the big event, feathers. Look at Walter's feathers.
I still have to figure out how to go around like that one on the end I was trying to
What,
do
this one?
something fancy,
I
but
was going to say that's deformed, but
yeah. Well, what happened was it's easy for me to just do them on the right hand side, but when I get to the left hand side, it sometimes goes wonky.
now this one's pretty good. The second one in. Where's my cursor?
Like if you look at the first one in, if you look at just the right side,
Yeah.
you can see how I'm looping around and then trying to go cause a fan at the top.
But these ones are looking pretty good too.
Yeah, well, see, those ones, that one was as if you're going around a corner.
Yeah, okay, you realize you're pointing into thin air and nobody knows what you're pointing at.
That's sort of like...
They still can't!
Okay, this one was... There's this one, I have like, if you see, there's a chalk line there, right? And there's a chalk line there. And I'm trying to... I was following a pattern that somebody did online, and it says you go up to this chalk line, and then you start and do a feather above it. And I don't know.
What is that meant to?
That's sort of like
traveling.
For traveling.
For traveling.
So, but that's too advanced for me so far.
But
plus,
these ones are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like in here, like, but they're big.
Yeah,
they're
I'm making them kind of big. So I'm gonna have to make them smaller.
Yeah. Well, they're coming along very nicely. So carry on. We are going to do a special video on So Chatty in another week or so where you'll get to see Walter doing this. He'll probably screw up camera. But we'll talk a little bit about, like, we've been talking about how he does them, the motions and stuff, but you're not really seeing them being made. So we will do a video about that.
Yeah, it's getting the motion down. And then what happens, it's let your mind wander halfway through. You get screwed up.
It would be a great little drinking game. Oh, how many glasses of wine do you have before your feathers look like really weird with that? But anyways, doing a very nice job of that. Hate you. Hate you a lot. Okay, announcements. So, sewing with me on Wednesdays, as usual, link in the show notes. All are welcome. Now, let's talk a little bit about the retreat, shall we? So, how many people do we have signed up for the retreat? We have 88. I didn't have a waiting list this time, but didn't need one. I have had only 2 people, I think, canceled. And they canceled a week ago or so. So that was, lots of warning. So that was great. That's fine. So 88's pretty good because I had spots for, I could go as high as about 95. So 7 spots available, but they're not available. Okay. Now, some of you are going to say, oh, I missed the deadlines. I'd really like to come and you got spots. Can I go? No. Here's why. Everything is planned. Everything is laid out. There's paperwork that has to be done for this kind of thing. And so I cannot keep like putting people in at the last minute and trying to keep up to date because I will screw up, for one thing. So no. Definitely no new registrations. It's done. It's over. Okay. So we have got tonight is the Icebreaker Cocktail Party. Starts at 7 o'clock. Those of you that are registered, you have the agenda for the weekend with the time breakdown for each of the presenters. And you also have the links, which is the most important part. The Zoom links. 2 different links. Okay. So I'm talking now to the people who are registered. I sent out this morning those links again. Even though I sent them out on the agenda earlier in the week, those links were at the bottom of that email. And I know some people have a tendency not to read through everything. So I sent them out again, just the links. So you've got them. The icebreaker cocktail party is an optional thing. I mean, optional is in the sense that, you don't, if you're not available, that's okay. Don't worry about it. That's not something you had to be registered for officially just for that. You're already registered for the retreat, so that's all you needed. It'll start at 7 o'clock Eastern time. It'll go for about 2 hours. It's just very casual. Bring a snack, bring a drink, whatever you want. If you want to show us something that isn't something that you already submitted for the slideshow, feel free to do so, because you will have an opportunity. What we'll do is we'll go around and I'll ask you what your name is, what area you come from. I mean, we're not going to ask you for your specific address, okay? Not that kind of thing. We're not stalking. And if you, at that point in time, if you have something you would like to share with us, show us, then you'll be able to do that. We're going to do intermittently, because depending on how many people show up for the cocktail party, well, there could be quite a few of us. So, we have to move along quite quickly. So I'll break it up a little bit with a funny video, and possibly a little game or something as well in there, just to get everybody used to, get them in the mood for the retreat. And also, this is first time for some people. I know there's been a lot of first timers have signed up for the retreat, and I've had a few of them reach out to me and say, well, what can we expect? Like, how does this work? Because they've never been to any kind of retreat before. So this will break the ice. That's why I call it the Icebreaker Cocktail Party. And then tomorrow, I will open the virtual doors for the retreat at 7:30 in the morning. The official opening, which is when I will go over a few procedural kind of things and the agenda, will be at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Do you need to be there right at 7:30? No, you do not. You can if you wish, and I will let you in. But for some of you, you're on the West Coast, so you're 3 hours behind my time. So if you were to get there at 7:30 my time, that would be 4:30 in the morning your time, and you might want to sleep. So don't worry about that. And that's why you're also registered, because that is your spot. Whatever time you show up, your spot is guaranteed. It will be there. You don't have to worry about that. One thing, though, I would really ask of people, it'll make my life a little easier if you can do this. And some of you will know how to do this, and some of you won't. And it's always very hard to explain. When you first click on the link, you may get a box that comes up that says what you're joining into and what you're going to be called. It may not. I don't know. I see things differently as the host. But if you take just a second before you rip right in, if that does come up, look and see if there's a spot where you can change whatever the default name is. Because for some of you, the default name may say iPhone, and it's not your name. So if you can change that with your first and last name, go for it. If you can't, then I ask you to listen very carefully when I first let you in, because I'm going to address you as iPhone or whatever comes up. Some of you use your husband's names, and I often wonder, do I have some transgender people on here, which would be welcome. But you know what I mean. I with 88 people trying to get on, there could be a slight delay, not long, less than a minute before I let you in. Just sit there, be patient, because what I'm doing is I'm taking attendance. I'm making sure no undesirables get in. Okay, I'm protecting you. But if I don't know your name, the only way I can find out who you are is let you in and then say, hi, iPhone, hi, guest, whatever it comes up as, what is your real name, please? And then I can change it or you can change it. You can change it yourself if you click on your picture that comes up. And you'll see 3 little dots at the top of your picture. Click on that, new pull-down menu, and in that menu we'll see something near the end of that menu. It says rename. Click on that, little box comes up. Backspace over what's in that little box, type in your first and your last name. please use the name you registered with, and it should be your real name because I asked you to do that. Okay. Otherwise, if that's very important, that's an identifier. And if I don't get the correct identifier, I will have to kick you out. Okay, because I don't know, did somebody hack us? It's never really happened before on a retreat, but there's a first time for everything, and we don't need somebody who is there to do dastardly things. Okay, so I just ask you to do that. Also, I ask that you have your camera on and your microphone on. Those two, those are not options in this. Okay, we have to be able to see you and we have to be able to hear you for it. Again, it's a security issue. Okay. So, I mean, if you need to go away from your computer and you want to turn off your video, that you know, just mute your microphone or mute your video, you can do that. That's not a problem. But the initial stages of this coming in. Now, I'm sorry, I don't accept this as an excuse. Oh, I'm very shy. I don't like being on camera. You'll see my messy sewing room. I haven't got my makeup on. We don't care what your sewing room looks like. That's doesn't matter to us. We all have messy sewing rooms, okay? That's the nature of the beast. So don't worry about that. The other thing is, this isn't a beauty contest. We're not here to judge you on your face, okay, or anything like that. So don't worry about that, okay? But we need to see you. We need to be able to hear you, okay? So I would suggest that before tomorrow, you test your system. Make sure your camera comes on and understand where your controls are for your camera. They're usually in your settings somewhere. And, you know, if you run into a big problem or something with the technology, there'll be plenty of people who can help you on here. I will help you. Walter will help you. Somebody else usually can help you. I am not much help with an Android device, okay, because I don't have one. Never used one. I'm a Mac boy. We are both Mac people. We do have experience with Windows computers, but I haven't used my Windows computers for this kind of thing in quite a few years now. So I'm a little rusty on where things are located in it. But there will be other people on there that will know, and they will be happy to help you out too. So don't get too uptight about that. But if you can do a little preliminary preparation, that's always good. It makes things more efficient. Okay. Yeah, and just come prepared to have a good time, because it will be. All right. Let's see. I think that's all I need to tell you about the retreat, and there aren't any other announcements. So, main topic today. We're continuing with the Accuquilt series. We have done the Carpenter's Block. Probably should have saved the Carpenter's Block for a little later on in the series because it was more complicated. But I start with the most complex things, you know. You know my slogan. I do the simplest things with the greatest of complexity. We've done the 8-inch cube, which is probably, in my opinion, is probably the most popular of all the cubes because it's maybe the most versatile in terms of size. We did the largest block, the 12-inch. That is... Oh, that's this week. We're about to do that. We're going to do the 12-inch this week in a moment here. It is no longer the largest block, I found out. They have a 16-inch now.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Like, and that one you would have to have, well,
I don't know if you're...
I'm not even sure if mine, and mine goes up. I don't know if mine would work on a 16. That has to be a studio block.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. I'll need to look that up and just see. But anyways, didn't know they had one that was that big. So this week it's the 12-inch block. Next week we're going to the smallest block, the 4-inch. So without further ado, and grab yourself a coffee because this video runs about 30 minutes long, and enjoy the 12-inch Qube from Accuquilt. Last time we took a look at the Accuquilt Qube system, and we started with the 8-inch Qube. And that's the one that's probably the most popular, and it's the one, in my opinion, that I think if you're going to invest in one of the Qube sets, it's probably the one to invest in because it does 8-inch finished blocks, and that's pretty much a standard in quilt making. However, maybe you want something bigger. Well, Accuquilt can do this for you. This is my 12-inch block, 12 inches finished. So let's take a look at what's in the box for this. And then we're going to take one of the patterns in the included pattern book and work with it with this cube set. So we have everything laid out here for us. The little skinny box usually has the pattern book in it, but not in this case. In this case, it has the CD again, which really is information that's a little bit dated. You probably don't even have a CD player on your computer anymore. And don't worry about that. All of this information, if you really need it, it's just getting started, how to cut, things like that. All the things that are explained in the pattern booklet that's included with the set. Also, you can go to the Accuquilt website and find all this information there as well. And you'll notice this pocket is empty because this is the 10 by 10 inch cutting mat. And you're going to say, well, why isn't it a 12 by 12? Because although these make 12-inch blocks, it doesn't, you don't need a 12-inch mat. A 10-inch will do. So that's included in the set, which we'll be using shortly. Okay, the rest of these boxes have our dies. And on the outside of these boxes, as on all the Qube sets, you have the actual dies. They're numbered, and these correspond to the pattern. So we have a trapezoid, which is number 7. We have 2 rectangles, which is number 8. We have a square, which is 1. We have half square triangles, number 3, and quarter square triangles, number 4. And in this box, we have another smaller square, which is listed as number 2, smaller half square triangles listed as number 5, and then an on point square in this box, which is listed as number 6. And if we pull out this first box, we can see how these are laid out in the system. Trying to get out of the sunlight. I can't do much about that. But we'll open this one up, and here we have only 2 dies because these are big dies. We have number 7 and number 8. Number 7, it shows you the shape here. It's a trapezoid. It tells you it's a it's a parallelogram, trapezoid parallelogram, whatever. It's a 45-degree parallelogram. And it is 3 and 11/16 by 15/16, unfinished. Finished, it works out to 3 inches by 4 1/4 inches. And all of the Accuquilt Qube packages in the boxes are done in the same way, telling you all the information you need to know about the particular die. So I have picked a pattern, and this is the little pattern booklet that came with it. And the pattern we're going to do today is this one. They call it the propeller block pattern. And here, as I showed you in the 8-inch cube, we have the dies we need. There's only 2 dies we need, a number 4 and a number 2. And it shows you the colors. And of course, you don't have to stick to those colors, which I will not be sticking to these colors, as you're going to find out. But essentially, you have a blue and a red half square. Actually, it tells you here these are quarter square triangles and how many we need. So it says we are going to need 4 in this case. So we're only have to do 1 layer of fabric. For this quarter square triangle, we need 8. So we're going to need 2 layers of fabric. For this number 2, it's a square. It's a 3.5 inch or 3-inch finished square. We need 2 of those, and we need 2 of the 3-inch finished squares in the other color. So we're only working with 2 dies, so number 4 and number 2. So let's locate those. We'll slip this back into the box. Number 2 and number 4. With 4 is in this box, 2 is in this box. So let's get this. Of course, you can see these are heavy. So getting them out of the box can be tricky, but they've included this little tab on the side for pulling it out. And open this up. And so I need the number 4. So we'll slide that out. this back in the box. Keep everything nice and neat. And we need the 2, which is in this little box right here. And there's our number 2 right there. Okay, put this away. Now we have our dies. Let's move this out of our way. So there's our 2 dies. Sorry about the sunlight. Okay. So, according to our instruction booklet, we need 4 colors. So I need to figure out which colors I'm going to use. Well, I'm just grabbing some scraps. So I think I will use this white for the number 4. It's these pieces right here. So that'll be for that. This one they're showing as a red, which is, I think, yes, these colors in around here. So I have something that is a sort of a red. So I will use that. Let's just move these so the sunlight isn't. Okay, there's my red. And then I need this number 2, this pinky orangey, they're calling it. And I think that's these ones here with the dots. So I think I'll use this one for that. And the last color, I'm going to use this one. So these are my pieces. Now you'll notice these are all jagged. They're a little wrinkly, so I should give them a bit of a press. Some people say, do you starch it? You can, if you wish. It does make it maybe a nicer cut, depending on the weight of the fabric. But you don't necessarily have to, just as long as you don't have any major wrinkles in it, because that might screw up your cutting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give these a light press, and I'm going to set up my machine and come back and show you cutting these pieces. So my first cut is going to be with my white fabric, and I'm cutting out 1 pass of the quarter square triangle die. This is die number 4, and the die numbers are indicated on the side. So throw my fabric on. I need my cutting mat, so I'm going to just grab it. It's the one that came with this set, the 10 by 10. Place it on here, making sure everything's lined up, and through the machine we go. We'll give it a little rub, just twist, put my hand on it. There's the waist, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, of course, it has cut off the dog ears for us, and that will help us line up our pieces. So that's number 1. For my second cut, I'm using my ready colored fabric, and I'm using the same die, but I need 8 of these. So I have doubled over my fabric. Since this fabric is really not directional, and these are not directional either, I can just double my fabric over and cut. The Accuquilt will cut up to 6 layers of standard quilting cotton, usually. Do not try to cut more than that. You could damage your machine. Plus, you're not going to get a nice, clean cut in many cases. So give this a rub. My hand on it. Get rid of the excess. And now I've got 2, 4, 6, 8 pieces. And that's what the pattern calls for. So now we're going to switch dies. We're going to go to the number 2 die that cuts a square. And this square measures 3.5 inches unfinished, 3 inches finished. I need it in my next color. And according to the plan, I need to cut 2 of these. So same thing, I'm just going to double my fabric over. So I have 2 layers. It's not directional. Now, I need a smaller cutting mat. I could use the larger one, but it might slide around a bit. So I'm just going to go for this one. I think that's a 6-inch. Run it through the machine. Give it a rub. Get rid of the excess. And now I have 2 3.5-inch squares. For my last color, I need 2 of the 3-inch squares finished. Again, I've doubled my fabric over. Don't worry about a little excess hanging over. That's okay. You don't need to be precious about it. Give it a rub. Get rid of that. And I should have 2 more of these. Okay, that's it. I've cut all of my pieces for this one block. So I'm going to clean this off my table, and I'm going to start laying out my blocks and showing you how you sew them together. So here are all my cut pieces. I have my 4 quarter square triangles, my 8 quarter square triangles. You notice that the dog ears are cut off. That's important for sewing. And then I've got 2 3-inch, 3.5-inch squares and 2 3.5-inch squares. So according to this pattern, we need to lay this out. So we have 4 patch made up of those squares with the colors diagonally across from each other. And then we have to put one of these triangles. I think it's one of these, or do I want to use, yeah, one will go here, one will go here, one will go here, and one will go here. And then we're going to have to sew one of these to one of these. So I'm just going to slide this over for a minute. So, and we got to get them on the right angle. So let me just see, consult the book. Need to sew, let's see. The partner's this way. Okay, it goes this way. And this one will go this way. Okay, what's interesting is they're not showing the cut marks, these up here, but I'm assuming once we get together and trim it, those will be fine. Because I don't see, oh, but this is how we will match them up though. So yes, okay. So I need to do 4 of these this way. Let's move this out of our way. And I'm a little geometrically challenged this way. And then I'll need, sorry about the sunlight again. Tried to block it off, but didn't have a great deal of luck. Okay, so there's my pieces all laid out, and I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew this one to this one to this. I'm going to press my seams in the first row to the left. I'm going to press my seams to the right on the second row. That'll finish this up. Then I will add these triangles to each side, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I've sewn the first part here, just put this over here so you can see it better. And you can see this is an on-point centerpiece here, the square. And it's come out very nicely. I have not done any trimming of this. And it measures at 9 inches square. And with the exception of maybe a little bit of a dog ear off to the sides here, which won't give me any trouble, I didn't have to trim anything. It all went together very exact, and I'll show you the back. And everything is nicely pressed down. I did not use any starch on the seams or starch substitute like Acorn pressing solution. I didn't. This is just ironed with a dry iron. Now, one thing. For years, I used steam. I was a real believer in steam. Steam will shrink your fabric. I didn't want to believe it, but my pieces were not coming out accurate, and that was the cause. There's really three major reasons why pieces may not come out exact when you put a block together. One, it's your cutting. You may be off. This is where the Accuquilt is a very good tool. You will get absolutely accurate cuts with the Accuquilt. The other reason is if you press it using steam, you will shrink the fabric down a little bit, and that's going to throw off your measurements or your pieces, especially if you do it between each addition enough that the final finished size might be off by maybe as little as 1/8 of an inch, but that compounds in a quilt. So don't use steam. I only use a dry iron. Now, if you're not getting nice flat seams, then you could use the Acorn precision pressing solution in the pen and just go over these and press it down. It won't shrink the fabric because you're not using very much of it, but it will make your seams nice and flat. But on this one, as I said, I did not do that. I just did a dry iron. And the other reason why your blocks may not come out to the size they should be is that when you sewed them, you did not have an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. So always make sure you do have an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. I know you've probably heard that 1,000 times over. Everybody says it, but everybody's true is right. So it doesn't hurt from time to time on your sewing machine to do a little test to make sure you have an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, next part of this is to sew these 4 pieces together. So that one's going to go here, but if you notice, because the corners are cut off, it's very easy to line these up. Just line up each edge and that little cut off piece. I like to put a couple of clips in there. You could use a glue, up to you. But for pieces this size, I think clips will be enough. I usually put in 3 clips, one in the center and one about an inch away or whatever to the other. So there it is. My piece is all ready to go. So I'm going to take these to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew them up, and I'll show you what those look like when I get that. Okay, I got a little ahead of myself, and I've made a mistake. I showed you that I clipped these 2 triangles together this way, and I clipped them down here. This is what I ended up with, a traditional half square triangle. But that's wrong. I don't want that. What I want is, just checking my diagram to make sure I get this lined up correctly. Yeah, I want, it's awkward when things are on an angle. Let me turn the book this way. So one has to go this way. This one is the mirror image. It goes this way. And I want to sew down this seam, not along the long way. So I should have turned my fabrics this way, clip them along here, because this is where I'm going to be sewing, and that will work. So this one, I'm going to need to unsew or rip it out. We won't say rip out, although I use that all the time because we're not really ripping. We're gently pulling our stitches apart. I hope you do know how to use your seam ripper properly. A lot of people don't know what that little ball is for on that. Well, you notice that I put that in. The pointy end is at the top of the seam on the stitch line, and that's underneath. That way you don't poke through your fabric as you go through it. So let's put this one in the correct orientation. This way. And then we're going to, it's very easy. At least it's very easy for me on anything that has an angle to get it turned the wrong way. I am geometrically challenged, and you've probably heard me say that many times before. So I want to sew down this side. Doesn't matter that I've got the red on one side and the white on the other. They'll all come out. Or will they? No, it does make a difference. Okay. So let's be consistent here, shall we? Consult my diagram. I want the white on top. So this is something you got to study your pattern. All right. I'm just going to lay these out again. I show you my mistakes so you won't make them. Get some of these threads out of the way here. So this is going to come over here. Line up the little squared ends and put in my clips. And I know this is where I want to sew. Okay, so I'm going to go back and do that to the other two pieces, get them in the right orientation. I'm going to sew them, and then I'll show you what that looks like. So I have my triangular pieces all sewn together, and as you can see, I've laid it out here on my board. And so all I need to do now is just sew these to each of the sides to complete this. Now, something I didn't tell you when I sewed these triangles together is I will, first of all, line this up. And because that little corner's cut off there, I want that inside little point as close. I want this down the center. So I'm just eyeballing it. I'm going to clip that. Bring my clips a little closer. And then I'm going to put this one on top of there. I'm just going to spin it around so I can see it a little easier. I'm going to line up the seam. That's what I should have told you. I'm going to line up the seam line here with that point right there. And that'll make sure that my pieces are lined up correctly. Now, I've got these. I'll take it to the sewing machine and stitch both of those, and I'll press them out. But you want to do these, the opposite sides first before you get to the last two pieces, and then you'll do those on the opposite because there's some overlap at the corners from these pieces that are here. So I'm going to take these off to the sewing machine, and I'm going to get that together and come back with the final block. So here's my final block, and this block is called the propeller block. And you can see how easy it was to put this together. Now, yes, this is not a complex block, but if you know how to put the simple blocks together using Accuquilt cubes, then the more complex one basically worked the same. Now, did I have to square this up? Slightly. I had a couple of little dog ears pointing out over here, just a slight bit, so I just shaved just a little off the edges. But this comes out to 12.5 inches square, and it's the perfect size. And given everything that I've recommended to you in order to make sure your blocks come out the size you intend them to come out to, that works. So that's this one. But something I want to talk about a little bit more extensively. I am not sponsored by this company. It is a Canadian company, but I use their products all the time, and I have found they have really helped me keep my blocks square. And that's the Acorn Easy Press Fabric Treatment, as they call it. Here it is here. It is a Canadian product, but it's available in most quilt stores these days. It is a starch substitute. It's excellent. If you're having a pesky seam that just will not lay down, you brush a little of this onto it and it will lay down. And how do you put it on? Well, they have this little tool here. It's called the Easy Press Pen. And it's a refillable pen that you just put this into this, and you can see it's got a well used nib on the end of it. You just press down to get this to start the flow of the liquid, and you just gently just go over the seam. It doesn't take very much, just a little, and then press your seam. Again, don't use steam, you don't need it, and that will help your seams to lay very flat. And another great way of what I like to do is after I have finished a block and I have it all pressed out, then just to finish it off, sometimes I will use, the Acorn pressing solution in this handy little mist bottle that you can also buy from them. In fact, if you buy the starter kit, it usually comes with this and a bottle of this. I'm not sure if it comes with a pen or not. It might. May depend on where you buy it. But this is one of those misters, and you just lightly mist the whole thing. Let it have about 30 seconds to soak into the fabric. You don't want your fabric dripping wet, just a light mist, that's all it needs. And then press it with a dry iron. And everything will lay out nice and flat, as you can see here. And if you want to take a look at my seams, look how nice those look, how flat those are. And you know, I didn't know this when I first got into quilting. I didn't pay any attention to this, but I do now. You want to keep your seams as flat as possible, because when this goes onto your long arm or your domestic machine for quilting, it's going to make your job so much easier, because you're not going to have a lot of really bumpy areas that you have to quilt over top of which may distort your blocks or your overall quilt. And another thing that'll help you keep everything nice and straight, especially when you're doing points where you're trying to match up those intersections. I just recently started using this. I know about it. I've had it because I'm working on an Art East quilt, he recommends this. And yes, those are tiny little pieces in the Art East quilts. So this really helps. But this is the Easy Precision Piecing Seam Alignment Gentle Hold Fabric Glue. And this works very well. You only need a small amount. You put a dot at the point of each one of your pieces, give it a light press for about 10-15 seconds with your iron, no steam, again, no steam, and it'll hold your piece together nice and straight. You don't need pins, you don't need clips, and you put it underneath your needle and away you go. And it comes out in the wash. And also, if you make a mistake, it's easy. This is the gentle pull. It's easy to pull it apart. As I said, I've only recently started using this because of the Art East quilt that I'm working on, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I should have started using this a long time ago. So those products from Acorn, I highly recommend. It is a Canadian product, proud to say, and I am not endorsed by them. I don't get any I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that. I just like to tell you about things that I use that I think are making my quilting better. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on using the really large 12-inch Qube box. Next time, we're going to go the opposite way. We're going to go to the smallest Qube box, which is the 4-inch, and take a look at that.
Okay, so next week, 4 inches. I just told myself a little joke. Never mind about that.
So yeah. And after the 4-inch, I have had a request to look at the add-ons, the corner and angle blocks. So I will do some videos about those as well. And then we'll move our way into possibly making a whole quilt using Accuquilt blocks, or looking at some of the more specialized blocks. Probably do that first. It'll give me an excuse to take the wrapper off a couple of other ones I've had in the wrapper for a long time. Okay, comments from the week. Got a few. And the reason I'm mentioning these comments is not to send people out. These are not bad comments, but they are things that I think help us all with our understanding about certain aspects of stuff we have talked about. So the first one comes from Lisa, and she says, I found you both through Sobecca and off Quilter Ian. Thank you for showing how to use the 8-inch cube. I bought this set over 2 years ago and was overwhelmed to use it. Now I'm going to open it up and start using it for blocks. To this date, I had only used the strip dies to cut out strips for my hockey quilts for our junior hockey players. So yeah, this is what happens. People get excited. This is how Accuquilt sells their products. They have a YouTube channel. And they come on every week and they introduce a new block or something they've got, and they get you all excited, showing what people are making with them and the whole bit. And they know how to play on FOMO, fear of missing out. And you get so excited, and oftentimes it's coupled with a sale. So you say to yourself, oh, I have to have this. This is going to be great. Then you get it and you don't know what to do with it. Or you're overwhelmed by looking at it.
Or you've got too many other projects on the go.
Yeah. And there you go. You've invested all this money and it sits still in the wrapper, like Lisa here with her cube. So I am glad that what we have been showing you with the cubes, you see it's not scary. And they do have a really good system, as I've explained in all those videos about how they lay it all out for the blocks. So if you're getting one of these, use it. Don't be intimidated. And actually the learning curve for an Accuquilt system is very low in comparison to other things. Really, you can be up and running in no time with it. Georgette says, I sure am loving your Accuquilt demonstrations. I see there are companion sets of angles and corners for each size cube as well. How are those used in making quilts and or the blocks? Also, and this is the person who mentioned the 16-inch, is also Accuquilt has a 16-inch cube they have come out with. So, yeah. And so Georgette wanted me to talk about the angles and the corner blocks and how you use those. And so, yeah, in a couple of weeks' time, we will be doing that. Molly says, the retreat center we go to twice a year has an Accuquilt and dies, and she has a list so that if you want to use it during the retreat, you can at no extra charge. So we were talking about the idea of a quilt store possibly renting them out or whatever, but that's a great idea. This is an actual retreat center. So yeah, that they were really thinking ahead. And that would be a great way too, if you have an opportunity to go to a retreat where they do this kind of thing, to try it out, before you buy. Because usually in quilt stores that have these, they don't necessarily have them out for you to use because, well, they're not going to sell an open box, probably, with it, or a used one. So, it's a bit of investment for them. And I don't think these fly off the shelf, not at what they cost. So, if you could try it out for nothing, that's something that's good. And Maureen wrote, our quilt group has an Accuquilt and many dies in our library that group members can borrow. Quilt guilds often have a library where they have magazines, patterns, and things like that are free for the members of the guild to sign out and use and then bring back and that kind of thing. So this is kind of an extension of that with the Accuquilt. That's a great idea, especially for the larger guilds, because they would probably have maybe a little bit more of the financial resources to purchase something like this, or a variety of different dies. Charlotte says, loving your Accuquilt segments. I'm starting a quilt now that calls for a bunch of 4.5-inch blocks, so I got that die out of my 8-inch cube to cut those. The rest I will be cutting with my rotary cutter. So I find that for some patterns, you can use a combination of both kinds of cutting for a project. That's right. The Accuquilt is not the be all and the end all to solve all of your cutting needs for all quilts. No, but it's a tool in your arsenal. And so if you've got, like Charlotte is, she's got all these 4.5-inch squares to cut out, that can get very tedious after a while. So an Accuquilt makes quick work of it, because you remember, it cuts 6 layers of fabric at a time. And some of the blocks, some of the dies, are multiples of the same shape. Like there is in the 4-inch, and well, I think in the 8-inch too, there's 2-inch or 2.5-inch squares. You cut 2 or 4 of them at a time. So you can go through pretty quick with that. But it's not going to solve every one of your cutting needs. I tried to use the Accuquilt for cutting out the diamond shapes that were for the Alaska. Nope, they don't have one that size. So yeah, but using it in combination, I think that's a great idea. Debbie says, Mr. Walter, your designs are looking awesome. Amazing how far you've come so fast. And then as an afterthought, she wrote, and Mr. Steven, your Peter Pan looks just fine. Perfection is so overrated. I love it. Okay. Thought I would feel a little left out. Did you, Debbie? Thank you for the kind words, though. Yes, and yes, I know the star of the show is Walter. It always is. No more to be said about that. Am I jealous? No, I'm not jealous. Yeah, I am. Bastard. Anyways, I'll put him to good use. Okay, so I think that's it for today's episode. Anything you want to say? Any last words? No. Oh, one thing I did want to bring up, though, again, because I haven't asked for this in a while. If you've got some, we've been concentrating every week lately on Accuquilt, okay? You might be getting a little bored with that, especially those of you that don't have an Accuquilt and don't want one. Suggestions, please, for topics, for things you would like us to do or see or talk about or whatever. We need them. Don't be shy. Send them to us, because I've told you before, we may not do exactly what you have suggested, but you will give us ideas for other things that we had never thought of before. And the comment section is a good place for putting those suggestions in there, or you can send it directly to my email address as well. Okay, we have to get ready for party night with the for the retreat, the Icebreaker Cocktail Party, in only just a few hours from now. So I hope to see some of you anyways at that, and a bunch more of you at the retreat tomorrow. And yeah, and oh, before I forget too, this is a real sew weekend, because we do the retreat tomorrow, but Russ, my friend Russ on Quilt Meets World, he is doing his sewing shenanigans tomorrow. I think he's going to start at 8:30.
You mean on Sunday?
Oh yeah, I'm a
you
day
said
ahead.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Fine, I stand corrected. Sunday. On Sunday, sewing shenanigans. I think he starts it at 8:30. It is a Zoom as well. It's not a YouTube live. So if you go to Quilt Meets World on YouTube, in his show notes below, he has a link for that as well.
Yeah, and it's not a sign up or anything.
No, it's not a sign up or anything.
Come as you go, right?
It's a come as you go. It's kind of like my sew days on Wednesdays, or when I do a pop-up sew day kind of a thing. It's very casual, informal, and everything. It's always a good time, and it's another opportunity for you to get caught up. And if you couldn't make the retreat because you were busy, but you still want to do some sewing, well, there's another opportunity for you. Lots of opportunities to do lots of things. Okay, that's it. Anything more from you? Got to get back out on Lucy and practice, do you? Yeah, okay. Whatever. All right. Have a good one. We'll see you later. Bye for now. Hi. I'm just going to interrupt my program for just 1 second to remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. That's all I ask of you. Show me a little love. Thanks.